All right, Casey, we got you from the University of Arizona. You're having a really good season this season. Kind of the first thing I wanted to ask is what got you to this point? So what's your story leading up to this season? What brought you to Arizona and kind of what are the overarching themes of you progressing as a pitcher?
Yeah, so um in high school I was more of a position player, not really pitching then. So COVID happened my sophomore year, so I didn't play all sophomore year. Junior year, I was mainly a shortstop, kind of pitched a little bit as like our closer. Senior year came around, we kind of lost all of our pitching, our starting rotation. So my coach was like, "Do you want to start?" And I was like, "Sure, like why not?" And so I became a starter, had a really good season. Was still focused more on the position side of it, and like my goal was go to college as a position player, like go succeed in college, play every day. And pitching kind of just like ended up taking over. So my August of my senior year, so right as the school year started, I committed to a junior college in Iowa, Kirkwood Community College. Thought I was kind of set, like just was kind of over the recruiting process. Just didn't really want to make any decisions. I only had two Division II offers, two junior college offers, and like I really felt like that was the right fit for me. So I committed there. February of my senior year, I kind of went to like some showcase and just I hit 93 off the mound and just kind of like saw that there was some more potential, especially on the pitching side of it. And that's when Arizona kind of came in. They were my only Division I offer. I came on the visit the week after spring break, so I think it was the last week of March of my senior year, so right after the season started. Came here, just kind of loved the campus. It's a bigger campus, but with a small field. It's kind of one main road in the middle of it, and then all the buildings around it. So I really love that part of it. You get the big campus feel, but you're also not walking 35 minutes to get to the other side of campus.
Yeah.
Love the facilities here. I mean, uh, the indoor facility is nice, which you'd think we're in Arizona. We don't need a indoor facility, but when it gets 105 degrees outside, it's nice to be able to go inside and get your work in.
Well, coming from where you're at, that's a big step too,
Yeah,
going from the Midwest to Arizona. It's kind of a
yeah,
different feel.
yeah. And I got here early, so my freshman year, I got here early. They had all the pitchers come early just to like start lifting. Just didn't really go play, and it was like 110, 115 that first summer. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this. This is miserable. But I mean, when you get in
So,
season,
quick
it's not.
question. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Question, how did you go from, was it Iowa or Illinois?
Iowa.
How did you get noticed from there at Arizona? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So this guy that runs another uh facility in
Gotcha.
Illinois, which because I'm from Illinois, he was good friends with our recruiting coordinator Trip, and like they kind of just connected. Trip actually scouted with him and like comes to the Midwest to recruit guys all the time.
Yeah,
So I kind of just like was on his radar as like a late recruit, and
gotcha.
it was kind of just this guy knows a guy, and it
And
went
you
from
came to
there. So
Arizona as a two-way, right?
I did, yeah.
Outfielder? Or,
I came in as a shortstop. Freshman year, I kind of took all my reps in the infield. And then towards the end of freshman year, they're like, go start taking reps in the outfield just because there wasn't as much throwing on my arm. And our infield was kind of set already.
yeah.
So it was just more opportunities out there. And then, so I moved to the outfield and I started one game against UC Irvine my freshman year, went 2 for 4. And then summer ball. So freshman summer, I went to the prospect league in Iowa. I didn't pitch at all. They just let me take a break from pitching, just focus on hitting. Ended up tearing my quad in July, so I came back here early just because I was rehabbing and stuff.
Mhm.
And then kind of just started from there. Coach Vance and John came. That fall was their first fall. Um, and they saw me throw one bullpen from over the top, and they're like, "Nope, not happening." And
So
they'd watch me.
what was the holdup? Was velo bad? Was it, did it no command? Like, what was the issue?
It was my sinker wasn't really sink like because I was the sinker from over the top, and
Gotcha.
like whenever it'd get up in the zone, it just wouldn't sink, and that's when damage would get done against me.
Yeah.
And so they were just like they would watch me throw because I would still take reps at short, I wasn't just in the outfield.
Hmm.
And they'd watch me and like I kind of just like flick balls over to first, like sidearm, and they're like, all right, that's like a natural slot for him, so let's do it. And I absolutely hated it at first. Like it was I threw one my first bullpen, I was 90 and 93 over the top, and my first bullpen where they wanted me to go sidearm, I was like 82 to 84.
Oh
And I
yeah,
looked at it, I was like, all right, I'm not throwing 84 after I was just throwing 93. Like
yeah.
this isn't happening.
So were you aware that your stuff wasn't playing well from over the top, or were you bought in at the time? Like you said,
It
it
was
was more
kind
of
of
a
a
thing.
mix. It was kind of a mix of both. Like I knew I had a good sinker, but like it wasn't as effective as it was. Like once teams got scouting reports on me, like they would just look one zone, and then if I threw it there, like it was just getting destroyed. Like
Yeah.
so, it was effective still. It just like I don't know. The more and more I was throwing it, it was getting less effective. So
Hmm.
um
All right, so they
yeah,
drop you down after, so this would be your first year at Arizona.
second. This is my
Second
sophomore year.
year.
Yeah,
Second year.
freshman year I was over the top with a different pitching coach.
So you're rehabbing from a quad injury.
hmm
How long did that take, and when did you start throwing again after that?
The quad injury wasn't a massive one, so I think it was a month of rehab, which
Gotcha.
set me to get back. Like that was middle of July, so I got back like right when school was starting. So and that was going back to like I didn't pitch all summer, so
Yeah.
my first bullpen back like was my first bullpen since
Yeah.
May, like when the season ended. So I was like, all right, like I'm just gonna go throw a touch and feel bullpen, like feel good. And then they go in my next bullpen. They're like, yeah, we didn't really like what we saw. Like, let's go try sidearms. And I'm like, no, like, there's
So
my one bullpen.
had you had any interactions with them before this first bullpen, John and Kevin?
I mean, not really like on the pitching side. Like I
Yeah.
introduced myself and like we talked like about my stuff and like like what my main pitches were and stuff. But like we never really talked like baseball, like in depth, like
Yeah.
mechanic stuff.
Gotcha.
So
So they drop you down, you're 82, 84. What did you say? Did you guys have a meeting after? Did you express that, hey, I don't want to throw 84? Like, what are we
yeah,
gonna do here? Like,
yeah. I mean,
what was the process after that?
I'm pretty outgoing about how I feel about stuff, like especially as like new coaches coming in, like I wanted them to know like how I felt and like they kind of just knew how I felt, especially seeing my results as 82 to 84 and like all over the place. And like I knew like deep down like the sinker was sinking more and like it was effective, but like I was like I'm not going to be effective at 82. Like that's just
Yeah.
not how it works. Um so like they knew I wasn't happy with it, but they were just like just keep going with it, like give it a couple more weeks, like we'll try it out. Um, and so like the main difference wasn't really like my arm slot because like I threw like even when I was over the top I was more like 3/4. So like it was more how I was like positioning myself on the mound and like how I was moving down the mound. And so it was a lot of adjustments of like, do I start more bent over? Am I more bent in my legs? Am I more bent in my chest? Like
Yeah.
it was a lot of little adjustments like that and like I was flying open a ton, like so it was like where am I leading with my front arm? Like so it was a lot of little adjustments and it's like one week it would work one way and then I'd go back in the next week and it'd be like completely uncomfortable and like wasn't working.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of those little adjustments and like the good thing about them is like they were really open, like to their thought process of like how they want me to do it, but they were also like, how does it feel? Because like if I'm pitching like this and it's not comfortable, like they don't want that for me. Like if I have to go out there every time and I got to get in a stance that's not comfortable for me, like that's not fun. Even
Yeah.
though it might be effective, like that wouldn't be fun for me and like wouldn't end up being effective at the end.
Yeah.
So that was
So,
the one thing like that they were
so
really
what
good about.
eventually got you to buy into the lower slot change? Like what
Uh,
did you have a good outing, or was it like a velo bump, or like what happened?
it was definitely the velo bump. Like I was 83 to 84 in one pen, and then like the next pen, like a couple after that, they like made a change in how I was like I wasn't as bent over in the chest, and I was like more bent in the legs, and I was just like throwing. They literally told me just throw like a shortstop, and then my velo went up to like 88, 89, and I was like, all right, I can do this. Like
Yeah. That
I can
low
have
of a slot, 88, 89.
yeah.
Well, obviously now you're throwing harder than that, but that's even really encouraging.
Yeah,
Um,
so I was just that was the big change is just like having And like they were really supportive going through it too. Like we know this is a big change. We know you're not happy with it. Like we're gonna do everything that we can to make you comfortable doing it. And like, how are you gonna be the most effective? And I think they did a really good job. And like finally, when I flipped the switch of just being pissed off about it all the time, to like, all right, let's like, it's been 3 weeks of being pissed off about it. Let's just finally like just
Yeah.
like buy into it. That's when it finally like I saw the results.
So was this the same? What was the time period surrounding going from a two-way to a pitcher? Was it the same time period?
No, so I was a two-way all of last year, and then I went to summer ball this past summer in the Cape, and like it's 6 games a week. I
Hmm.
was still a two-way there, like I would hit BP and stuff, but it finally just got to the point where I was like I'm sick of taking BP and not ever playing, and so I when I got back I told him I was like I think it's gonna be more beneficial if I just focus on pitching, and
Yeah.
I mean I think
So
it's
how's
worked
that
out better.
transition been? Has it been like weird, like your whole day revolves around just pitching?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been weird like not having to worry about going in there hitting in the cages before and like I think that's the part that I didn't like. I mean anyone's gonna like taking BP on the field. Like that's fun. It's all the little like extra work and hitting in the cages like that. I was like, all right, this is getting old.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I mean it's been difficult like watching you guys take BP, you stand on the warning track and shag, like it's not the most fun, but I mean
Hmm.
for the better and the results and it's been for the better.
So coming into this year, when you made the switch into just being a PO, what were kind of some of the big changes and like some of the big developmental like progress things that John and Kevin have worked with you on like this fall leading into this spring? Like what was the first thing like your opening meeting when you get back from summer ball, you decide you're a PO. How did they go about making a plan for you? And what were kind of the big things that they wanted you to focus on?
Yeah, I would say the big thing is like they wanted me to stay as athletic as I can because like my motion like isn't a mechanical motion, like it's just me throwing, and I expressed that to them and like they agreed. Like if I start to get like all mechanical and like I've gone through some of those like in the fall too. Like I went through like 2 or 3 weeks of like I need to move this way to get make my sinker move more like, and then that's when stuff starts to flatten out because I'm sitting there thinking about my release angle and how I'm releasing the ball like. And that's just not how I work. Like some guys that works for them and like that's great. Like we have a ton of guys that go in and watch video and like their release point, how the seams are coming off there. Like, I just can't do that because then I overthink. So
Hmm.
that was the big thing. Like in our meeting, was like just stay athletic. Like if we need to make little changes, which we did, like we made some changes based on the results that I had on the New Forest Mound. Like my stride length was a little too far. Like so I wasn't able to get my arm on time as well. Like so like little changes like that helped. But other than that, like it wasn't like, all right, like this week we're gonna focus on like long tossing, so like you
Yeah.
get more velo. Like it was more just like little changes throughout the fall and like staying athletic.
Yeah, so that's a question. That's a good point. That's a question that a lot of coaches have when talking to players about technology and about development. It's kind of a fine line of depending on the guy. This is my point of view. Depending on the guy is how much you go into depth on what the technology means, what all of the different metrics mean, what all the numbers mean. So kind of what's your view on um, how athletes such as yourself should approach technology? Like, should they try to stay away from it and try to be super athletic? Should they try to learn as much as possible, or should there be kind of a in between?
Yeah, I would say I think there's an in between. So like I think the right approach to it is like if you're running a team like as a coach, like I would say like make a PowerPoint like or some sort of way to show everyone what the numbers mean and like how it can help them so they understand like because going into it like the new force mount for example like you guys came in like there's all these numbers on the screen. I
Mhm.
don't know what any of it means, but if I go to them and like they come to the players and like show us like okay this number means this means this like this is what we're looking at and like this is how it can help you, then like yeah you're gonna get more guys bought into it
Exactly.
because now they understand like what it's saying and like what how it can actually help them. Where like if you guys came in with like the new force mount, all those numbers are up there and like John and Vance are just looking at it the whole time and like I have no clue what it means, I'm just up there throwing and then they're
Yeah.
like okay let's do this and
I
I look
find
at the
that,
numbers, it's like, all right,
yeah,
well, what's the point? Because I don't know what it means.
exactly. I find that at least a baseline level of understanding, at least for the specific person, what they're looking at and what they're trying to work on. So,
Hmm.
like, when it does turn out good, the athlete can be like, okay, that was a good one. And they like actually understand what the coach is talking about, why it was a good one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like, back when during my playing career, we didn't have a lot of this technology. Like a coach would say that was a good one, but it's hard to objectively like know why that was a good one or why they thought that was a good one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Unless they like express that to you and explain it to you. Um, so with that being said, where do you see the the bad side of technology? Like, have you seen some guys go overboard with diving into the numbers? Have you seen them get too much in their head or yeah, that kind of thing? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be a bad thing at times. Like, especially like all fall you're worried about your numbers and like how can we get better, like how are these numbers helping us, but when it gets to spring, like it's go time, like you're going out there to compete. Like I don't care if you're throwing 86 or you're throwing 95. If you're throwing 95 for ball four, no one cares. Like
Yeah,
that's the big thing. And I think like some guys, like they'll go out there like, okay, I need to hit this number, or I need to be moving this way to throw this hard and be this effective. It's like, no, just go out there. Like that's what all this pre-work was for, like all fall, all preseason. Like you're in there working based off those numbers to like get comfortable with your release, like your mechanics. So when you go out there, like you don't have to think about that. You just go out there and throw. And so I do think like you'll see it, and like even like in other teams, like you can see guys like going out there and they're just like overthinking. Like you can see on the mound that the guy's thinking as hard as he can out there.
yeah.
Like,
Have
and
you
it's
experienced getting too deep into that? And what did you do? If you did, what did you do to kind of get out of that mindset? Like, is there any particular, like you go out and just try to throw athletically, throw a football? Like what types of things do you do to get out of your own head if you have ever experienced getting too deep into it?
yeah, for sure. I this past fall, like I did, like I was kind of losing my sinker wasn't sinking as much as it was and like it normally was, and so I was going to John like, what do I do? Like my sinker's not sinking. My mechanics messed up? Is it my release angle? Is it how I'm releasing the ball? Like, and I was digging way into it, and like it took like 3 days of me playing catch, and I'm like, all right, this is just not helping me at all because I'm overthinking every throw, and so I finally just started like acting like I was fielding like a shortstop and throwing sidearm. I would do make plays on the run, like just during catch play, just like
Yeah,
mess around. Like I get like coaches are always like, you only have a certain amount of throws in you. Like you're a pitcher, like you got to focus on every single throw. And like I do think that has a good point of like, yeah, you need to have intent on every throw, but like you can't be serious with everything you do. Like you got to have fun with it. Like make off balance throws. Like because especially like when you go in the game, like if you make a PFP and all you're used to is throwing mechanically every single throw, like
yeah,
you're gonna throw that ball away when you have to throw like an athlete. Like
yeah,
so, I think that has a big say in like if you're being mechanical all the time. Like yeah, it's a good thing to have intent, but it can mess you up. Especially me, but other guys as well. Like, just have fun. Like, just go throw. Like, it's
yeah,
still baseball. That's why we're out there. We're not out there to throw like a robot.
for sure, for sure. I love that. One last question. This is just something that I've thought about. I don't know. I'm not trying to step in John's kitchen. I love John. I talk to him all the time. But what about, have you ever thought about just like dropping in a surprise over the top throw on someone? Just bringing in some 94 from the top and just really throw them off?
Yeah, I have, and we've actually talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
all right, now that I get comfortable solder, I'm like, is it beneficial to go over the top? And like, we just haven't like done it yet, but it's definitely been like a talk with John. Like,
Yeah.
let's just mess with the hitter and like just throw one over the top.
It would be super surprised. Two strikes, you've been down low the whole time, and then just pop one in from the over the top. I don't think anyone would swing because they would be so confused.
No, they'd be like, what is going on?
If you could
Yeah,
just learn to throw it right down the middle from over the
yeah,
top, well, anyway. But
yeah.
it was good talking to you, Casey. Do you have any kind of last things you'd like to say for anyone that's, starting to get into tech, trying to develop themselves, trying to figure out the best path forward? Like, what would you tell a young guy who's overwhelmed by all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just understand the information that you're looking at, but understand how the information is going to help you. Because there's a lot of numbers out there that might not help you, and so understand what's going to help you specifically, and then use that information to the best of your ability, and just
Yeah.
don't overanalyze it.
Well, awesome. It was good talking to you, Casey. I
Yep.
appreciate you taking the time. We'll stay in touch.